Today we're going to do a lesson on Blackbird. Just a quick note before we start, this isn't going to sound exactly like the recording. There are a couple reasons that I teach my students in the way that I'm about to demonstrate. The first being, in the recording, he's sort of using a bit of a sloppy technique, which certainly has its place. Blackbird is a classic for a reason. If you're a beginner or even intermediate player attempting to learn this song, the picking pattern that I use to teach my students will help you to keep in time a little easier, and it'll also be a little more applicable to other songs that you might want to learn. If you're hoping to sound exactly like the recording, this isn't the video for you. But I honestly doubt that any listener would really be able to tell the difference between the way that I'm going to demonstrate and what's happening in the recording. With that, let's get into it. There are two main finger picking patterns that I use to play this song. So we're going to learn both of them with our left hand being stationary, so that way we can really focus on the right hand. So for pattern A, that looks like this. So to practice in the right hand, we're going to take our left hand and just put our ring finger on the 3rd fret of the low E string. So this is kind of the first thing that happens in the song. I think it sounds good for both picking patterns to just use your 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the low E string and practice both of those finger picking patterns. So the first pattern, we're going to take our thumb, put it on the low E string, our middle finger is going to stick around on the B string, and our index finger is going to stick around on the G string. So first we're going to pinch both thumb and middle together, and then we're going to strike the G string with our index finger. So you're noticing that my middle finger is staying on the B string, my index finger is staying on the G string. That's going to be the case for most of this song. The second pattern, we'll call pattern B, goes like this. So my middle finger is going to stay on the B string, index on the G. We're going to pinch, middle, and thumb, hit the thumb, hit the index, hit the thumb, hit the middle, hit the thumb again. So when you put them both together, if you want to practice them both together, it'll sound like this. So I'll do that nice and slow. So just a quick note on pattern B. I think this is the hardest pattern of the song, and it's the one that my students tend to have the most trouble with. So I recommend kind of trying to tackle that one first. And the way that I would recommend practicing it is, first of all, play it slow. Second of all, start with almost like a bass and then build it. So what I mean by that is start by just doing the pinch with the thumb and the middle finger, and then just focus on the thumb. Once you have that down, add in the next index finger. Once you have that down, now you can add in the next middle finger. So I'd recommend trying to get the finger picking pattern up to speed while leaving your fretting hand stationary. So now that we have an idea of what's going to be required in the finger picking hand, let's talk about the fretting hand. So we'll just start by going over the intro. First, we're going to place our 3rd finger on the low E string, just like it was, 3rd fret. Now we're going to place our index finger on the first fret of the B string and remove our third finger. And what's going on in the fretting hand is we're playing the same pattern. So that would be like pattern A, and our middle finger and index finger are staying in the same spot, middle on B, index on G, but my thumb is going to move to the A string. Moving on. So now my index finger is moving from that first fret of the B string up to the second fret of the A string. My ring finger is going to go down on the third fret of the B string. So all together. Now we're going to switch to picking pattern B, and we're going to slide our hand. My index finger is going to go to the 10th fret of the A string. My ring finger is going to go to the 12th fret of the B string. So you'll notice my fingers are on the same strings. They're almost kind of making the same shape. They're just spread apart. So here there's only a 1 fret distance between my index finger and my ring finger. When I slide up here, there's going to be a 2 fret distance between my index finger and my ring finger. Now this is going to happen a lot, which is kind of why I made mention of it now. So once we're up here, now we're going to start picking pattern B. So when we put it all together, repeat that. So that would be like the intro section, and that takes you into the verse. After you play that a couple times, you'll move on to this. So let's talk about it. We're back to picking pattern A. Our index finger is going to be on the 3rd fret of the A string. Our ring finger is going to be on the 5th fret of the B string. Now here's where the picking pattern changes a little bit. The next chord, we're going to lay our middle finger down on the 4th fret of the A string, and our index finger is going to move to the 3rd fret of the E string. And the way our picking pattern is going to change, the timing is the same, but now my middle finger, instead of being on the B string, it's going to move up to the E string. So if we go over those two, now we're basically going to do the same thing, but starting with our index finger on the 5th fret of the A string and our ring finger on the 7th fret of the B string. So our fretting hand is effectively doing the same thing. It's just the first one starts with the index on 3, the second one starts with the index on 5. Now when we land on this next shape, we're going to switch to picking pattern B. So this shape is index on the 7th fret of the A string, ring finger on the 8th fret of the B string. Move your index finger down 1 fret. Now we're back to picking pattern A. We're going to take this shape, slide it down 1 fret. We're going to take our middle finger, put it on the 4th fret of the A string, our index on the 3rd fret of the E string. We're still on picking pattern A, but similar to what we did when we played this shape before, we're going to switch our middle finger in our finger picking hand to the E string. So let's go back to this shape. Now we're going to move our index finger to the 3rd fret of the A string, ring finger to the 5th fret of the B string, and go back to picking pattern B. So what I did there was just moved my ring finger down to the 4th fret of the B string. Next, we're going to take this whole shape, move it down 1 fret. Now we're gonna move our ring finger down 1 fret and lift our index finger off. And then we're gonna put our index finger on the 1st fret of the B string, and our thumb now is gonna switch to the D string. And then we're back to just that ring finger on the 3rd fret of the low E string. So let's go through the whole thing nice and slow. So now there's one more section of this song. It's this little descending part. So let's talk about it. We're back to picking pattern A. We're going to start with our index finger on the 8th fret of the A string and our ring finger on the 10th fret of the B string. Going to take this shape, slide our index finger down 1 fret and our ring finger down 2 frets. So we're using the same fingers on the same strings, but rather than them being 2 frets apart, they're only going to be 1 fret apart. Take that whole shape, move it down 2 frets. Now take the index finger, move it down to the 3rd fret, and the ring finger down to the 5th fret. So we're going to take that whole shape, move it down 2 frets, and we're back to finger picking pattern B. So I went down 2 frets and then moved up 2 frets. The whole thing again. Now, the second time we play it, we're going to descend down kind of like we've done before. So that was ring finger moves down to the 2nd fret of the B string, index finger lifts off, thumb now in the picking hand moves to the D string, our index finger lays on the 1st fret of the B string, and back to that G. There's one other little tag that you should know, but we've already kind of played it, so it's kind of like a mash of things that we've already played, but you're going to start kind of like you do the intro. And rather than going up here, now we're just going to go up to the 3rd fret with our index finger, 5th fret with our ring finger. So now slide your index finger down 1 fret and your ring finger down 2 frets. So back to picking pattern B. So we're on picking pattern A, pattern B. Then you move your ring finger down, index finger comes up. Index finger goes onto the 1st fret of the B string. In the picking hand, the thumb switches to the D. And ring finger now goes back down to G. So now you know all the parts, it's just a matter of putting them all together. Click the link in the description, that'll take you to my website where you can listen to a couple different play-along tracks at different speeds, so that'll help you kind of paste everything together. I hope you found this video to be helpful. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Thanks.